I only write tracks for Steve Swift reviews. He punched me twice in the face and asked for a duel. The pugilistic prophet with newbies diagnostics, like Scroobius Pip but less toxic. The UK comet shooting stars never lost it. It's 2025 and the internet still dies. Guys are chasing algorithms like a crack pipe high.
All right. Okay. So it is another week. This is the Bees of Boxing. I'm Chris. He's Steve Swift. That is two things that we know for absolute certainty is that I am Chris. He is Steve Swift. This is the Bees of Boxing. So, okay, three things that are absolute truths. One thing that is not a truth, Steve Swift, where's Jake Paul's opponent? Can you answer this for me, please?
Yes, I'm. One of those truths will help because I have another set of papers in a different name, and that's what I'm using when I become Jake Paul's opponent. I might just keep well. Now, I have a hot take on this.
Okay.
Would you? Well, first of all, let me say that I've been podcasting crazy over this because it's been so ridiculous. I think this is some of the things that have happened with this Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis fight are not their fault. Not their fault. But some of the things that have happened with the promotion and with MVP promotions, like having real clowns on the on the press conference, it still makes me laugh, with fucking excuse my French, balloon animals that they put in front of fighters. So that is an issue. And having a graphic on social media, on Twitter X, of Jake Paul being chased by an elephant with a cock on its trunk, a little cockerel. What's that for? I thought, is Gervonta Davis known as the cockerel or something? I thought I missed something, but no. So I don't understand this. Now, the latest thing could not have been foreseen, and it is some legal troubles for Gervonta Davis. So they're looking for another opponent. I don't know. I'm smiling there. I shouldn't be smiling around that trouble because it is an allegation of battery and kidnapping. That's definitely not something to smile about. The smile comes from there's more trouble. So we're looking for another opponent. Is that a good summary of the massive issues that's happened to this fight?
Yes and no. It is absolutely a good summary. I think that there's a bit more to this though with the whole Gervonta Davis and his legal troubles thing. I have certain thoughts about these types of situations when they arise, and it's based solely on the wording of what the accusations are at this time. Because wording in legal matters, as you know, wording in legal matters can be way different and paint a much different picture than the reality of what actually may or may not have happened. We know this for a fact. That is why books have a certain way with adjectives and the way that we describe things and how it's put over. But that said, the claims of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and the intentional infliction of emotional distress, those are serious words. Absolutely serious words, and have to be looked at like they are the most serious words whatsoever. So what this does is this puts the entire fight, the entire card into jeopardy. Now they've looked at, there's no way. We're talking 2 weeks from now. I don't think that there's any way that they could pull this off whatsoever. So they've already talked about going back to December with something like this. I think it's not happening with Gervonta Davis. That fight is done. That is over with. And the next thing that you're going to see on any kind of back and forth between MVP and Gervonta Davis is going to be lawsuits over lost money, over all of the promotional stuff leading up to this. Because contracts are contracts, boys and girls. And this is going to be one that is going to end up probably almost surpassing the Devin Haney level of lawsuits in boxing. Not quite the lawsuits that have faced off against WBC in the past, but this is going to be quite up there because we're talking a lot of lost revenues here for a lot of other fighters as well. Now, do they take all of this and move it back to December? Do they take the entire card and move it back to December? Well, now you're looking at guys asking for guys and girls to change their entire camps all over again. This is a bigger thing than just the legal and outside of the ring life that is boxing. This is business. This is the realities of all of this. Now, that said, the opponents that we're looking at for the possibility of Jake Paul still being able to come back and have another fight, another exhibition hootenanny, a little tussle, if you will, a wee bit of a stomping. I don't know what else you would call it, you know. What opponents have you heard? Because I have some ideas. I have some ideas on who it should be, but I want to hear what you've heard, Mr. Steve Swift, almighty one.
I've got a hot take on this. The only one I've heard is Ryan Garcia. No, that's what I thought. Well, there are two reasons why. One, because you don't want to harm that belt shot, which he might well get with Mr. Barrios, and probably would win a fight if Barrios is in the state that he was with in his last fight. And secondly, I don't think he wants him in because whilst if the Gervonta Davis fight took place, and I think Gervonta would have won that, but I don't think that he would have clowned him in the way that Ryan Garcia would want to. So he'll want to make a fool out of Jake Paul, and I can understand why. He's got a point to prove. He's got to announce himself again, and he's got the skills to do it. I don't think that Gervonta Davis really cared enough about that. Do you want to know what my hot take is?
1,000% I do.
It's Anthony Joshua.
Nope. No, you're an absolute psychopath. You are crazy. You are el loco in the cabeza.
Let me just tell you now.
Please explain yourself, young man.
I'm going to give you a caveat here because I like a caveat, but you must be careful because you can go blind. You can just, if you do it too much, on a cracker would be lovely. Now, I think we are now not looking at actual boxing match taking place. I think we're looking at, I'm going to try and get away from this as much as I can. The boxing card will not take place, in my view, even if you're pushing it back to December. However, if you announce, all right, I'm in a hole here, and because all the way through, when he announced Gervonta Davis, people said, you're a bully, including us. You're a bully. You're a weight bully, and it doesn't look good. The only comeback for Jake Paul now is to say, look at me, I've had to do this, and now I'm the underdog. Anthony Joshua, who we are now being told coincidentally yesterday could fight in December. We've been told yesterday he could fight in December after Eddie Hearn saying he won't fight in 2025, and I might put him on an 8-rounder. And it won't be a main event, but he could fight in Ghana, or he could. So now, yesterday, a couple of reports came out. I don't know the veracity of them, but he could fight in December. That's coincidental. So I don't know necessarily if they will actually. I don't think they will get in the ring. That would be appalling. But I think the announcement of that, we're trying for this, folks, saves a bit of Jake Paul's face. And as we know, it's the business of boxing. You don't necessarily need to actually throw punches to save face.
You're 100% correct, except for one small chunk of caveat on your cracker there. And I'm going to say this. You are right. You don't need to actually throw punches to make the announcements and all of that. What would stop them, I think, from making the announcements, however, is Jake Paul's deal is with Netflix. Golden Boy and the Ryan Garcia thing is not happening for the same reason that I don't think the Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn thing would be happening, because they both have exclusive deals with DAZN. And that's a bigger problem. You've got to get DAZN. You got to break off a little something for DAZN, I would think, in order to make this happen in any way, shape, or form. At that point, is it worth it to Jake Paul?
No, but if you announce the bleeding thing, and even if you announce it, if you talk to Eddie, who of course has a documentary on Netflix at the moment, don't forget that, doesn't he? If you speak to Eddie Hearn and say, look, I don't know if this is going to happen, but can we just have a discussion about it? And Eddie says, yeah, okay, because he's very open in that respect. And I'm not denigrating the man. I really admire his work in that respect. He's the antithesis of Frank Warren and the ultra antithesis of Ben Shalom. But if you say, can we just talk? And then you announce it, and Eddie Hearn goes, oh, I've never agreed to that, but then get some stamping ground discussion out of it, an IFL discussion out of it, then everyone gets well. However, the only person who doesn't get well is Anthony Joshua, because he'll be thinking, I'm being used again here. You keep talking about people I can fight, and now you're saying I can fight in December. I'm still hurting. And yeah, he might feel used, but you might go, we're going to try and get this done. You know what? We couldn't get it done, folks. It's all over, but we tried.
That's an interesting take, and I would be surprised, but not surprised at the same time. You know what I mean? Let me just throw a couple of names out there for you that you might as well, at this point, if you're looking to actually save a fight, why not? Or if you're looking to just announce it, why not just say it's you and Floyd then? Why not just say that it's you and Canelo then? If it's going to be something that isn't really going to happen. So I think that you got to go after something that actually could happen. There's really only a couple of choices once you've got that boxing thing. It's not going to be Canelo. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, yes. Just to break in and agree with your point previously about alignments. You don't want to mess with His Excellency, not when this big deal's coming up. So you leave Canelo alone because of the Riyadh season deal. You leave that alone. But Floyd, God, yes, it's a great call. And if you just announce it and say, we're working towards this, but, Floyd's very difficult because he's a great negotiator. We couldn't get it done, folks. But I want to do it sometime. And your tickets are still valid for when we get it done.
Absolutely. And that is a wolf ticket supreme. Like if we're selling wolf tickets, then that's what you do. Now, if we're selling real tickets, you're not going to go after an Anthony Joshua, because that is way too big of a mountain for a Jake Paul to even attempt to climb. If there's a pattern here, there's a reason that he's fighting guys that aren't at the level of him in boxing or are much more smaller than him in boxing. So what if I was to say there was a guy who could probably be ready in December, who likes to fight with both hands, who's just recently had a little outing inside of a boxing style ring recently, not too long ago, who could certainly sell a fight with his mouth to promote it between now and then, but is much smaller than Jake Paul. Paulie Malignaggi, I'm looking in your direction.
Oh, that's a great call, because it doesn't really, because the first thing is, Paulie Malignaggi, is he still around? That's the kind of thing that first comes to your mind, but it's negated by, what can we do, folks? Our backs are against the wall. Let's just make this a fun fight. And, we're kind of close in stature, but he's much smaller than me. But it appears that he's closer in stature. He isn't. But
He's
in your mind's eye,
Najee fought at 147 as well. Like
yeah.
we're talking the guy who fights at the same weight class as Gervonta Davis.
Yes, but in your mind's eye, in my mind's eye, I think because Gervonta Davis just seems quite squat in that respect, whereas Paulie doesn't. So I'm thinking maybe that would be great because Paulie would really talk that up and is talking about getting the gloves back on, but has also said, "I go bare knuckle." Now, is he? If we're doing an exhibition, is he doing a bare knuckle exhibition here? Is he saying, "Jake, I'll fight you, but it's got to be ungloved"?
I mean, because the other choices are literally, if it's an exhibition fight, it's against his brother. The only other one that I've heard that is literally the latest one that I've heard that just came across that is on the table actually for him that nobody's really talking about is 79-year-old Rocky Balboa is going to come out of retirement, because if everybody remembers in Rocky 2, he was about 200 pounds. So it's close to that right now. It's the age bracket that Jake Paul looks forward to fighting. If it's going to be in the same weight category, it's got to be at least 40 years his senior. So I think Rocky Balboa is a perfect choice.
I must finish you. Go through
it. Could you imagine? Yeah, listen, this is, I'm interested to see what actually happens. It's not going to be Ryan Garcia. Oscar has already put his foot down for that same reason that I said earlier. Also because Ryan Garcia, he's got, I wouldn't say bigger fish to fry. I would just say some fish to fry, because it looks like they're trying to set up. The deal is damn near done for the first quarter of 2026, where he's going to face WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios. And if anybody can remember, Mario Barrios's last outing was a ever stupendous draw against a 47-year-old Manny Pacquiao, ladies and gentlemen. But yet, Ryan Garcia's last outing was a loss to Rolly Romero. So how is this, Steve, that he's getting a title shot against a guy who probably, arguably, should not have a title?
This is, may I just check back, though, first and say, put on record, I said influencer versus boxer fighting, boxing, would be done in the new year. I believe it will be, particularly when you consider Misfits, which we might talk about later on, and all what's happened there and their WWE stuff. However, the situation with Mario Barrios, and Ryan Garcia, it mirrors why Tyson Fury, he's a shithouse, is number 2 in the ring heavyweight rankings. The man is king retired, and you are putting him there. That's because it's more than boxing. And that's the same with Ryan Garcia. It's the green. You sell tickets. Ryan Garcia's mouth sells tickets.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Why is it that this is all happening at the expense of Mario Barrios? Again, because they just did this to him with Manny Pacquiao. And that was coming off of a fight that he had a draw with against Ramos just prior to that. So his last 2 fights are draws, and now you're throwing him in there with the king of the crossover influencer versus boxing boxers in Ryan Garcia. This is who you're throwing him in against. And it's literally, are they doing everything in their power? Is the almighty WBC doing everything in its power to get this belt off of Mario Barrios, short of pulling, what they did before in the past?
I can't comment on that, clearly. But what I can say is 2 words to you. weak champion. And, if we were wrestling booking this, we'd be saying, we're with that weak champion. And what happens is they get in the ring with loads of people who are, and they overmatch them and they squeak through with a draw. Now, if Mario Barrios had gone in and knocked Pacquiao out, we'd have gone, oh, retire, Manny, retire now, just retire. But he didn't. And that is why he's being treated like this. It's of his own doing. He's a weak champion. If he hasn't got the skills or the heart or whatever to knock people like Manny Pacquiao, and he could have done that, let's face it, but didn't do that. He is reaping that right now.
I think at the end of the day, we still forget that Manny Pacquiao is Manny Pacquiao, and I think the business of boxing lens that Manny Pacquiao needed to have something in there so that he can have future legends fights. Because we've talked about all of this before, how there needs to be a legends division. And legend doesn't mean what it used to mean. I mean, we see fighters still. Bernard Hopkins did it well after, we see guys also retiring what we think is far too young. So inside of that legends division, let me throw a few names and ages at you, Steve. Tell me what you think about this, because we're talking about a guy who's still actively boxing, ish, and was supposed to be on this Jake Paul card in crossover MMA gone to boxing star Anderson Spider Silva. At 50 years old is still doing this. But why is it that can happen? But Vasily Lomachenko at 37 years old is like, nah, it's enough for me, right? It's wild to think, because Triple G, 43, Manny Pacquiao, 46, Floyd Mayweather, 48, Canelo, 35, Andre Ward, 41, Carl Froch, your buddy, 48, Anderson Silva is 50. Only two of those guys three really are currently fighting. And that's the oldest one at Anderson Silva, the 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao, and the youngest one, Canelo Alvarez, at 35, who is clearly on his way out. I, for one, look forward to a Legends division that has all of these guys in it.
Yes, absolutely. And we've called it, haven't we? And, it will, I believe fervently, it will happen unless Dana and His Excellency, and they get in the information from this podcast. We know that, even if they're not sitting down because their schedules don't allow it, they're getting the information somehow from this. If they might go, we're not doing one of those, we're going to have to come out and say it's a definite no Legends. But I believe there will be that, and I believe that will be the top of that card. And when people are writing constantly about what next for Canelo Alvarez, that, because it aligns beautifully. He's rehabbing now, and he will rehab till the end of the year. In early 2026, because you'll want that, the UBO, whatever they call it, whatever they're going to call it, the new boxing, I say wrestling because it does seem like that to me, the new boxing project will come out. Him at the top of, or opening that Legends situation. He's got 2 more fights on his Riyadh season contract. This all aligns beautifully. And I don't know who will fight, but my money would be on money.
I think that what we're also seeing right now, because Anderson Silva, like I said, is fighting, well, is supposed to fight on this Jake Paul card. And he's supposed to be fighting UFC legend Chris Weidman, who's in a boxing thing. We've called this here before on this show in the past about who's going to be sitting at the table next year in the world of boxing. Jake Paul is one of those guys, along with Dana, along with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, along with Ben Shalom. And we've said this. And what really good way to keep a couple of guys active in that world of boxing than to say, hey, Jake, give Anderson a fight on your card. because an Anderson Silva boxing fight on TV for Zuffa, TKO, whatever they're going to call it, that's going to make people watch. Nobody's going to watch it when it's on the MVP card because it's like buried in the undercard someplace, like a lot of Anderson Silva's fights have had. But I guarantee you that's a fight that you would see. So the no legends thing, no, because that is a fight that Dana will put on there for sure. Anderson Silva, there's going to be other guys, but I think you're going to absolutely see that is going to be who uses your legends idea, Steve, is going to be Dana.
I'm sold on that, because my thought was, what you do is you do a big opening with all of the pyrotechnics and the fireworks, and you get Money Mayweather versus Canelo. However, I don't think, now you've said that, you don't need that on your first, because you've already got that excitement anyway. Let's see what it looks like. I'm going to tune in just to see how it looks. Oh, it looks like Power Slap. Oh, okay. But for instance, so you won't need to bring Money Mayweather in. I mean, Anderson Silva is, he's a character, and that's going to make, it's going to get eyes on that product. You're quite right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's safe. It's safe for everybody because coming out of the gate, if they come out of the gate with, Floyd, or right out the gate, well, where are you going to go? You can't go to Anderson Silva after that. You got to be able to book the return, right? Because the big setup, everybody knows the biggest setup is going to be the fight that they put on between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And that's the fight that's happening. So much so that even Dubois' own trainer is like, Dubois would run it back with AJ if that fight with Fury doesn't actually happen. So even the smart people inside of the business, smarter than us, are sitting around talking about this is going to happen.
Now listen, yes, I appreciate your view. However, and I'm coming to your way of thinking, but I have to say, if that's going to happen, you've got to tell Tyson, because he's on TikTok recently saying, yes, I will fight Anthony Joshua, but no one gets any money. It goes to charity. I saw that. Now, I checked the date, and it was recent as far as I could see. It might be years ago, but he has to come out with a comment saying, I will come back, not I won't come back even for $1 billion. You have to get him on side. So somebody, it's the Tyson Fury factor. You've got to get him on side.
Yeah, absolutely you do, because otherwise he's the selling factor in that fight anyways. Yeah. Anthony Joshua couldn't talk his way into getting laid in a horse prison with a fistful of pardons. Like, he does not know how to speak. Tyson Fury will be the one selling that fight. What? Yeah, yes.
Hang on. Where are these horse prisons? Are there specific prisons for horse?
Have you not? Oh, don't tell me you haven't seen Caged Heat.
I mean, we had a TV show called Bad Girls, but they weren't specific horse prisons. We don't have that in our prison community.
Oh, I'm sure they have them in the States for sure. Like have you seen that? I mean, there's clearly there. I'm sure that there's pen pal systems, and there's probably Tinder for prisons.
I don't think I could endorse that. I'm saying right now, I don't believe I could endorse that, and would never endorse that. I'm saying that right now.
And for those of you who don't want him to endorse any of those pictures, don't send them to World Weary Guy 1.
Don't do any of that. Don't do any of that. I don't want any of that. I'm not doing. Stop it. I'm not endorsing any of that. That's very, very naughty.
Yes, 100%, absolutely. But you know who they might run into there. Eventually, it looks like. And I'm going to side shift here. Let me throw a name out there for you, Steve Swift, and see if you know this name or not. Amanda Rodriguez. Do I recognize that? It rings a bell. Why should I recognize that? Amanda Rodriguez Amanda Rodriguez is the wife of one former Arturo Thunder Gatti. She was originally arrested when Arturo Gatti, back in 2009, they found him. There was some circumstances, but they ruled it a suicide afterwards. That's what they ruled, even though his wife was arrested in all of this. She was later no problem, according to the police. Fast forward, their son, who was a boxer as well, Arturo Gatti Jr., recently found unalived in his place down in Mexico, and they were saying initially that this was like his dad. They are now saying that this is being treated as a murdering, which means that the person who was there, because where this happened to be the house of one mom, Amanda Rodriguez. Are we about to find out that Amanda Rodriguez is some black widow in the world of boxing who's going to end up having a documentary about her on Netflix?
Well, I suspect that people will jump on this, won't they? I mean, it's an innocent until proven guilty situation, but I mean, you know, boxing isn't always in the bright lights, is it? You know, and we know it's the hurt business in more ways than one. So that's, oh dear me, that's an extraordinary situation.
That's a wild story coming out.
Yeah, it's a massive coincidence.
Yeah. And let's hope for everybody's sake that that's what it is. But this is a wild story coming out, and you know how things usually like this can happen. Listen, I've seen firsthand newspapers down in Mexico where they have talked about the problems with air quotes as they throw this up, humidity being a thing down there. There have been news stories where a body was pulled from the water. The cause of death was drowning, even though the body had no head. So strange things happen in humid places is what I'm saying. That's the lesson that I'm learning here.
Those lakes and rivers and you know, and the dockside might have incredible riptides that rip those heads clean off. I mean, they could. I don't know. I wasn't there, but they could. So, you know, anything could happen in that respect. You know, being a bleeding heart liberal, I'm saying that could happen.
Well, you know, crazier things have happened, Steve. Yeah, crazier things have happened. So before we go, let's get into this one. Because if we're talking about crazy things, apparently the interwebs, the internet is all up in arms over fights this past weekend for a Queensbury card that was headlined with Zach Parker and Joseph Buatsi. What did you think?
I mean, he was robbed. He was robbed. I thought that Zach Parker was definitely robbed because I gave Joshua Buatsi possibly, not even definitely, possibly 2 rounds. I gave him the 2nd round and maybe the 9th round. Now, at ringside, Carl Frampton's card was, oh yeah, it's wide. When they switched to, they had a fan zone. The fan zone around round 8, something like that, 7 or 8, was equal. I don't know. I couldn't see how that could be. But I did think that Zach Parker was so smooth that sometimes that goes against you because the judges can't see you working and working and working. What also, and I said this on my podcast as well, that sometimes the social media and the hoopla around Joshua Buatsi's the coming man. You don't hear about Zach Parker much, you know, on the interwebs, as you say, but you do Joshua Buatsi, and sometimes that affects. I'm not making any comments about judges in this respect, you know, not that kind of comment, but I'm saying that sometimes that affects the A versus B side. I thought that Zach Parker was robbed, and I thought it made Joshua Buatsi, who didn't really turn up that much and couldn't throw much, look frustrated. I thought also Zach Parker was very wily, and sometimes, you know, when you're in a clinch and you drop into your knees and all that kind of stuff, sometimes judges think, nah, that's crap.
Well,
maybe that had something to do with it.
Outside of a fight with my wife or girlfriend, nobody has ever won a fight on their knees. Okay. And that's exactly what happened with Zach Parker. I don't see it the way that everybody saw it. I kind of see it the way that this whole fight was not as good as everybody seemed to think. Yes, Buatsi did not show up for this fight whatsoever. He looked like he just was not interested in pulling the trigger. The fact that his coach and trainer was giving him advice from outside of the ring, I thought was weird. I think that he was taken out of this fight in the first round. And I think a lot, because we saw in the very first round, he ends up getting popped with something that knocks his mouthpiece out. Referee doesn't see it, doesn't stop anything. And you know as well as I do that because we've seen this before. Anthony Joshua is a perfect example of if you punch him in the mouth first, you take him out of the fight. I think that's exactly what we saw in this one. And Buatsi had someplace else to be after that and just did not want to pull the trigger, did not want to fight. I also think that Parker used way too much of his fancy footwork, you know, to put himself in and out of these positions. Every time Buatsi would look to turn to drop that shoulder to unload something, Parker was on him. He was jumping in. He did a lot of clinching, a lot of holding, a lot of, you know, and picked his shots. I think that the more damaging looking shots in the entire fight were done by Buatsi. So I think that that's probably where a lot of people, you know, look at things completely different. I also don't think that Carl Frampton is a very good judge, but that's just here nor there.
Well, I take your point, actually. And, you know, as I say, he probably was he was using his boxing acumen too much. And if the referee was of a mind, he could have said, I'm disqualifying you for doing this, because he did it at least twice in every round after the fourth or fifth, maybe even before. But he maybe was too slick. He maybe was too slick and it was too easy. And what he wasn't doing was dominating the center of the ring because he didn't need to. So I think he thought, I can just box at, you know, I use my jab, I'll box at arm's length, I'll get out of there. And sometimes judges think, oh, well, you know, he didn't really do enough. I still think he was robbed.
Well, hopefully, if nothing else, they can get him another good fight out of this. Because you know as well as I do, records don't mean shit. Boxing records don't mean anything anymore. It really doesn't. Because I would love to see Zach Parker get picked up by TKO. Let him fight there. You know what I mean? That's a great story about a guy like that too. You know, who could do really well on a show like that, in a league like that, whatever you want to call it. I think that that's what you'll see a lot more of. You're going to see some weeding in the next future of guys that are going to be able to go to that next level, or they're going to go to the closest competition, which is going to be this league. I think that's what you're going to see very shortly. And we got some fights coming up that are unbelievable in the month of November. So, you know, listen, boxing's going to get full. It's going to get really full, and it's going to get really exciting for the year 2026. What do you think?
It's great. It's lovely to get. Oh, and what if anything? And I know that people are tugging the forelock to His Excellency and saying, you know, we didn't have these fights before you came along, Excellency. But what he has done, he's kind of lit a fire under everything to say, you know, as the Jam said, what a catalyst you turned out to be. And he is. So he's saying, here's loads of money and I'm making these things happen. What are you going to do about it? Loads of good stuff. So it is happening. You're right about the weeding out, because you're going to get people like Buatsi. I mean, there's a big Brit pack in cruiser and heavyweight at the moment. You'll see people like Buatsi and I think Chris Billum-Smith, who sidestepped Roman Fress. If you want a belt, don't sidestep. People like that are probably going to be, well, you're over here. Let's concentrate on these. I think that's going to happen, particularly as Buatsi didn't really turn up last night.
But it does put him in line now for, a possibility at the winner between Benavidez and Yard. So you're going to need a guy like Buatsi to be a good next title defense or first title defense, however the outcome of that fight happens.
Yeah, you need meat in the ring, don't you? And that's something that Buatsi can do. I think he could do that, but he's not really a contender based on, because the commentary team was saying, he needs to step up now. This is his time. He's got 3 rounds to turn this round. Come on now. He showed us what he could do, and it wasn't great.
No, I think everybody was expecting to see Buatsi from the Olympics this past weekend, right? I think that's what everybody was expecting to see. And as well as I do, that just doesn't happen all the time. For all we know, that guy could have had the shits and been puckering his butthole the entire fight and just wanted to get out of there. That guy could have had a steak the night before, like after weigh-ins and stuff like that, and ended up with a bad case of gout in his right foot and his toe was bothering him. Like, it could be the littlest of things that just takes you out of a fight. None of us will ever know, because those would be really embarrassing things to have to give up to the media. That's for damn sure.
I'm glad you said it first.
But it's been known to happen. How many times have fights been canceled because somebody's got the shits? They're like, no, they've pulled out of the fight due to an injury in the locker room. There's no injury in the locker room. I've been in the locker rooms. You warm up by hitting some pads. You get taped up. Anything outside of that has to do with your guts, boys and girls. That's all it is. And if your guts is messy, the last thing you want to do is poop yourself in the ring, because that stays with you forever.
Very true, and it stays on YouTube forever as well. Yes, there should be. This match has been cancelled due to one fighter being too frightened. That would be good.
Well, eventually, one of these fighters will be smart enough to realize that they do make a tighter fitting, more snug, athletic version of an adult diaper for just such an occasion. I think it'll be a great sponsor for the retired legends portion of the of that league.
You could call it Boxer Boo Boos. That'd be great. And you could have someone like David Hay saying, "Hey, I'm David Hay, and I'd get back in the ring tomorrow if I have my Boxer Boo Boos." Then he can model them in some way.
Absolutely. Well, who would be the first one? Because it's kind of, he's already calling everybody a shithouse already.
Or you could have Carl Froch saying, "Yeah, I'll model those," and then never doing it, but talking about it every day.
Right.
I can model these in front of 80,000 people, like I did when I knocked out George. All right, leave it.
Oh, that would be the line. That would be the line. I would have knocked him out faster had I been wearing my Boxer Boo Boos.
You don't want to shit yourself in front of 80,000 people like I didn't against George Groves.
That's right. George Groves, maybe he needed these.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Very much indeed.
Oh, that's tremendous stuff. All right, Steve. Halloween is past. Halloween is over. We're into the month of November. We're getting closer to Christmas now. For those of you that actually keep track of the proper holidays and the proper way that they play out in North America, yes, Thanksgiving is still coming up, regardless of what the people in Canada tried to make you believe, because there was no pilgrims in Canada anyways. Anyways.
We have nothing now until Christmas. We have nothing now. No holidays till Christmas.
Well, you guys did just have a holiday recently. I heard with Andrew getting ousted, but that's a different type of holiday altogether, isn't it?
I can't possibly comment on that in any way, shape, or form. Being a Brit, I can't comment on any of that.
Yes. Well, being an American living in another country where they can't extradite me, I'm doing just fine. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Suck on that. Steve, music is abounding. What is going on over at World Weary Guy 1? What can I look forward to along with all of the rest of these heathens?
But you know what I've been doing recently? I've been going back to a period that people don't really celebrate regarding Motorhead. You know the Motorhead punk tributes come out now, and I'll be reviewing that. But I've gone back to 3, and I've done them now, 3 mid-90s albums that are just not recognised. They're brilliant. And then I thought, well, you know, after Another Perfect Day and Brian Robertson in his very tight-fitting satin shorts, I thought, almost as if he was trying to create some trouble, I thought that Orgasmatron was the one where people said, that's the next album. People said, that's marvellous. Then there's a load of albums that people like Bastards and 1916 and Rock and Roll from the late 80s. So I've gone back to those. I'll tell you what, Rock and Roll's a killer. It's extraordinary, the groove on that. So there's that. And there's also a new, as a band who, they're called Second Cities, and they have a single out which has got grunge and 80s pop and rock and all sorts in it. Have a look at that. I podcasted about that yesterday. The day before, I podcasted another one called Silence Reigns. Is a very young group of lads. I know the parents of one of the lads. So I said I'd do it, and I thought, if this is not very good, I'm going to have to say, but it is. These are all very young lads who just have produced something extraordinary. It's metalcore, so there's a bit of hardcore in there, clean and dirty vocals or growled vocals, but I've enjoyed that very much. And tonight I might do a review of Weapons, because I watched it last night in honor of Halloween, and I watched Halloween in honor of Halloween as well.
The original or one of the bastardized versions thereafter?
Of course, the fucking original. Yeah, it's my favorite horror film.
Well,
and listen, it's great.
Some people do silly things. Some people do silly things like allow Rob Zombie to make horror movies just because his last name is Zombie. I don't get it. I will say this about Weapons. One of my favorite movies in that genre in a long, long time. They got it right with Weapons. They nailed it 100% out the park with Weapons.
Extraordinary. I've been waiting for a while to see it, and there are just they're great actors in there as well, which is just really, people seem to forget that. I'll just get anyone in. No, you need good actors to be able to do that. There was one moment where towards the end of the movie, when it all comes back on Gladys, and she hears the snap and just says, "Oh no." That made me, I should have been wearing my boxing boo-boos at the time.
Well, it was so good that before the tickets, before the lights even came on, they've already talked about they're doing another one, which is going to be the backstory as you were to Gladys.
Right.
Her character was I can only imagine how many people were dressed up as Gladys this year at Halloween. Unbelievable stuff. Listen, Steve, it's always a pleasure. I don't know if you know this or not.
Come to the children. Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children.
I mean, Old Dirty Bastard says it himself right there, Steve. So you have to take his word for it that Wu-Tang is for the children. He's Steve. If you got a problem with ODB, then you got a problem with me. And if you got a problem with me, you got a problem with Steve. So Steve's going to come to your house and probably kick your ass. One thing you better make sure that you do is tuck your chin.